bring over Chris Sims, former NFL quarterback, now an NFL analyst. And, I forgot all about Chris, that he wasn't afraid to give you an opinion. When he was in college, his junior and senior year, we would have him on, it seemed like, once every couple of weeks, and he would always give us strong opinions. And there was one opinion that Chris Sims gave us that I thought about today, and I even recalled it for the Danettes. And that's when you said to me, we go back to the Matt Leinart, Vince Young, and Jay Cutler draft.
Yeah.
And that's when you said, forget about Vince Young, forget about Matt Leinart. The best quarterback in the draft is Jay Cutler.
Right.
Now, that's true, but there's some issues with Jay Cutler. What happened to Jay Cutler where he's not an elite quarterback?
Well, he does have elite talent. There's no doubt about it. I think when you're in the new offense, the biggest thing I'll say is this. He makes mistakes that a guy that's played as long as he has and as talented as he has and as smart as he is makes mistakes that are kind of you just can't do at this point in your career. I think that's the big point with Jay Cutler. Even last week, you see at the end of the first half, scrambles out to his left, they're down. He's sitting in the pocket forever like there's no pass rush that's ever going to come and get him. They come, they sack, fumble, they get it, game over pretty much. But those things, he's too good. He should be too aware of what's around him to just let a guy come in and get a clean shot.
But he's not going to change.
It's hard to. I think it's hard to stick up for him to say he is going to change at this point. You're right. There's too much evidence out there for me to say, oh, he'll change at one point. This is what we've been saying this for 9-10 years.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, too, I'll say there, running game not great in Chicago. I think a lot of people see Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey and they think, they should be unstoppable. Those guys are big receivers, but they can't stretch the field. They have no receiver there in Chicago that can really stretch the field. When's the last time you saw Alshon Jeffrey or Brandon Marshall go deep down the field? They're good. They're big bodies. They can catch the ball in traffic, but they could use a little speed on that offense too.
You also caught my attention recently when somebody asked you if Tom Brady was a top 5 quarterback. Was that the correct question?
Well, we've talked about it a lot in my job at Bleacher Report. We make videos. We're sports fans too, so sometimes we just say, hey, let's talk about who the top 5 quarterbacks are right now. Yes, and I did not put Tom Brady in my top 5. Peter is actually the one that made it public.
Peter King?
Yes, he did. We talked last weekend, and he wanted to know something interesting I had said lately. I've really been saying this for like over a year, but now it shows you how big time Peter King is because it blew up when I told him. Yes, Brady, one of the 3 best quarterbacks of all time, no doubt about it. To say he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now in year 16, no. I mean, Shrek's not real, Dan. I mean, year 16. Guys.
Okay, wait a minute. Who's better than Tom?
Aaron Rodgers is hands down the best quarterback in football. I don't think that's even arguable. I don't think anybody in the NFL would argue that. 2 would be Andrew Luck to me. 3 would be Ben Roethlisberger. 4 would probably be Russell Wilson, and I would go 5, Peyton Manning. Yes. They're up there in years. They are not physically elite anymore. Tom and Peyton are doing it more with their brains. They're still good throwers of the football, but they are not elite throwers of the football. I mean, Peyton has issues pushing the ball down the field. Tom, the past few years, lately he's been better, don't get me wrong. But Tom, the last few years, has been one of the worst deep ball throwers in football as far as outside the numbers or throws over 20 yards. So that's why I said that. Can they still win the Super Bowl? No doubt about it. But to say they're top 5 in year 6, what are they going to do? They're 70 years old. They're still the best in the game. They're winners. He won 3 Super Bowls. So.
I always like when I hear this, only Tom Brady could have made that throw.
Yeah,
and I'm
right.
thinking, no. It wasn't a great throw. I think a lot of quarterbacks could have made that throw.
Yes, and listen, I love Tom. I have the ultimate respect for him. And like I said, he's one of the 3 greatest of all time, in my opinion. I worked up there in New England. The other thing I get sick of hearing is he has no weapons. I hate that. Because last time I checked, Rob Gronkowski's probably the best tight end in football. Julian Edelman is one of the best slot receivers in football. He's better than Wes Welker. Bill Belichick thought so. And LaFell and some of those other guys, they are good, solid players. They got a good offensive line. I don't want to demean Tom Brady. He's still the man. But no, not
it comes
top 5.
down to this, though. We're talking to Chris Sims from Bleacher Report. You got to have a good offensive line.
Yes.
I mean, that's really what you got. Peyton Manning bringing in Richie Incognito into Denver this past week.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers, that first game against Seattle where that line looked like a mess.
Right.
If you have a good offense, Tony Romo's got a good offensive line.
Yes.
So there's a lot of your success that's predicated with that offensive line.
Yes.
And we don't talk. Brady finally got his line healthy
Right.
And they've performed admirably.
They did.
There.
You're exactly right. They got that, the center and the two guard spots. Once they got that situated after the Logan Mankins trade, because they were switching around players there a lot more than I have ever seen any team ever do. Yes, it changed their team, and now they're back to what we expect New England to be. But I think if you look at Tom Brady or Peyton Manning's career, one of the key things to their success is they've had great offensive lines in front of them their whole career.
I want you to handicap the college quarterbacks. I don't know if part of your job with Bleacher Report is to look at that, but Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, if we just look at those two quarterbacks,
sure,
and they're different, and I look at one, Jameis Winston fits really with what the NFL is asking and requiring. Yes. Mariota is still that stretch guy where we've found that you can only do that for so long in the NFL.
Right.
So if you were looking at those two guys, how would you, and I guess we got to factor in everything here with Jameis Winston.
Sure.
Okay, so who do you take?
Okay, well, let me just preface it. I will study these guys. I haven't studied them yet. And then my job is all NFL. So I watch college football just as a fan like you on Saturday. I will do the draft. I did the first 4 rounds of the draft last year for Bleacher Report, so I will get into that. Take all the off-the-field stuff off the table because I don't know all the stories. Of course, I know some of the stuff with Jameis. Would that concern me? Of course, it's going to concern NFL franchises. But if we just start with on-the-field play, I'm taking Jameis Winston first in the NFL draft over Marcus Mariota. Mariota is a really special talent, but Winston is in a professional offense. He's running it like a professional quarterback. He's being taught by what the heck's the head coach down
Jimbo
there?
Fisher.
Jimbo Fisher, sorry. Being taught like a pro in Jimbo Fisher. You see him do all the things at the line of scrimmage, run checks, pass checks. He's under the center a good amount of the time. He does play action passes, and I see him make in the pocket reads as well. My big question about Mariota, first of all, tough to evaluate when I watch him on TV because he throws to receivers who are wide open at times. So I don't know what to think. The other thing is I'm always concerned with the spread quarterback coming out of college. One thing we've learned the last few years with anybody involved in the spread offense, those guys are mentally behind when it comes time to perform in the NFL level. Small playbooks. A lot of them don't even have playbooks. We've heard that with RG3 and Baylor.
Newton.
Right. It's just signals from the sideline. So they are so behind the learning curve when they get to the NFL. I think that's a risky thing, especially if you want this first pick of the draft, Marcus Mariota guy, to contribute to your team in year one. I think that's a tall task to ask some of these spread quarterbacks.
It's interesting that you say, but Chip Kelly talks about his quarterbacks have to be able to process information quickly, and he did that at Oregon.
Yes.
And that's what he's asking for his quarterbacks, Mark Sanchez, to do that now.
Sure. Well, yeah, and I think the big thing there, too, is, I know Chip Kelly's a phenomenal coach. Oregon, I don't, even when Chip Kelly was in Oregon, I don't think their playbook was probably as in-depth as it is now. Okay. Because of the rules, the 20-hour rule, all that changes everything. Now Chip Kelly, all he's got to worry about is, hey, Mark, get here early because we got a full day of football to learn. So he can just add more and more inventory to the offense.
Do you have a scar for the spleen?
Oh, yeah, big one, right? Bottom of my chest cavity all the way down to my belly button. Yeah, about 10, 12 inches.
How long ago was that you ruptured your spleen?
Yeah, I lost my spleen. Almost died. That was 2006, September 2006.
How many plays did you play after you got hit?
I got hurt like maybe the 4th or 5th play of the game. So that's when it started. And then they think that's when a hematoma forms to stop the blood. But then I took a lot of other big hits from Julius Peppers and company that day. And that basically broke the hematoma and just let the blood, free flow. And I lost 9 pints of blood and, emergency surgery right after the game. They brought in my wife to say goodbye to me. It was the whole 9 yards there.
Did you get last rites?
I don't think they gave me last rites. If they did, I was out by that time. But yeah, I was sitting there and I could still, they brought my wife in. I was so miserable. You get so miserable to a point you're like, do anything to me. Stick that machete in me and rip me open if you got to, if it's going to make me feel better. Because I had so much blood in my abdomen, right? I couldn't even breathe. So, I've had better days.
Did you know right away it was a different type of hit?
No, I didn't. It was a hot day.
And who hit you?
You know what? It was, remember Chris Jenkins, the big nose tackle for Carolina, played with the Jets. Yeah, he hit me from behind when I was in the throwing motion. And Thomas Davis, who's still there, put his head just right into my, stomach there. I was wide open, and, that changed me. I thought I had a broken rib. I thought maybe... But nonetheless, it was one of those things. I have a picture of me and Jake Delhomme after the game. he's like, his head is cockeyed, and he's looking at me because he's literally about to say, dude, are you okay? You don't look good. And, yeah, I went in the locker room, and I was, they were ripping my clothes off me not too long after that in the emergency room.
I'd love to have you back on. It's great to see you again.
Thanks, man.
And good
You're
luck
the
with
man.
Bleacher Report.
You got a nice little spread here.
It's a nice little man cave here.
Yeah.
Nice little gig. But great to see you. And tell your dad we said hello. He's Chris Sims, Bleacher Report NFL analyst.